In the heart of the Soviet Union, during the transformational yet tumultuous decade spanning the 1920s and 1930s, life unfolds for the Ivanov family, a small unit on the outskirts of Moscow. Their daily existence is a microcosm of the vast and often brutal changes rippling through the USSR, a dance between hardship, resilience, and the flickering hopes kindled by communist ideals. The journey begins in 1920. In the wake of World War I and the Russian Civil War, the village landscape bears the scars of conflict. Fields lay fallow, and the air is heavy with uncertainty. Nikolai Ivanov, a former soldier, now turns to farming, his calloused hands coaxing the reluctant earth to yield sustenance for his wife, Maria, and their 3 young children. The implementation of Lenin's new economic policy, NEP, in 1921, breathes a tentative sigh of relief into the community. This policy, a temporary return to private enterprise, helps stabilize food markets and allows for small-scale trade to blossom once again at the village market. Although life remains difficult, the possibility of exchange instills a newfound sense of community and agency. In the quiet evenings, the family gathers around the radio, a cherished connection to the wider world, broadcasting tales of parades and progress in distant Moscow. In stark contrast, their own village struggles continue, tethered tightly to the rhythms of rural life. Yet, within their modest home, hope flourishes alongside daily hardship. Maria, spirited and determined, becomes actively involved in the local women's association. She spearheads efforts to eradicate illiteracy, hosting gatherings where she imparts the basic joys and skills of reading and writing to women who have never touched a book. This dedication reflects the broader Soviet promise of empowering every citizen through education. Their eldest child, Alexandra, displays a precocious interest in the sciences, nurtured by the village school's newfound emphasis on scientific advancement. She dreams of becoming a scientist, buoyed by the educational opportunities unfurling in this new socialist order. Meanwhile, Nikolai, grateful for the small mercies the NEP affords, knits the bonds of familial endurance tighter as they navigate these shifting political tides. As the 1920s yield to its latter half, Stalin's rise signals a seismic shift. His radical policies usher in a new era of rapid industrialization and collectivization. The once individualistic lives of the village farmers undergo drastic transformations. The Ivanovs, along with their neighbors, are swallowed by the wave of collectivization, mandated to merge their modest holdings into expansive state-run kolkhozes. This transition is fraught, marked by resistance from wealthier peasants, or kulaks, whose opposition often results in brutal deprivations, deportations, and for some, death. Conversations are whispered, and fears are coloring every interaction as neighbor against neighbor struggles with enforced change. Yet, even amid these challenges, Nikolai finds a measure of pride and purpose in his role at the kolkhoz, striving to lead with compassion and resolve amidst scarcity. Maria, undeterred, intensifies her efforts within the Women's Association, incorporating basic healthcare and agricultural education into her teachings, adapting swiftly to the ever-evolving landscape. As 1930 dawns, the Ivanov family witnesses their village alter irrevocably. The relentless ambition of Stalin's 5-year plans reshapes the urban environment. Moscow hums with industrial vigor, the dark silhouettes of factories standing as monuments to the regime's transformative aspirations. But in rural outposts like theirs, collectivization falters, leading to widespread famine. Despite the harshness of these years, glimmers of hope persist. Alexandra, now on the cusp of adolescence, earns a coveted place at a prestigious scientific academy in Moscow. This achievement is a testament to both her burgeoning talent and the ideological promise of the Soviet state, a promise that education can propel the nation into a brighter future. Departing for Moscow, Alexandra carries the weight of her family's hopes, leaving behind a village rooted in the past and venturing toward a city blooming with the possibilities of tomorrow. Maria and Nikolai, while proud, also feel the profound loss of her departure. Yet, in Moscow, Alexandra thrives. The city's pace invigorates her spirit, with academia offering a world where dreams are only limited by ambition. Her nights unfold in laboratories bustling with brilliant minds and revolutionary ideas, a stark contrast to the oppressive air thickening within the political climate outside. For the Ivanovs remaining in the village, life under Stalin's regime tightens under the shroud of suspicion and paranoia. The Great Purge instills an atmosphere of fear, where whispers can lead to disappearance. Nikolai and Maria navigate these treacherous waters with stoic resilience, drawing strength from community ties and their unwavering commitment to family and neighbors. As years pass, the Ivanovs learn to coexist with watchful eyes, finding solace in close-knit family gatherings, clinging to the simple joys of shared meals and stories whispered over crackling fires long into the night. Despite pervasive fear, Maria's leadership among the villagers becomes even more vital as she organizes help for those suffering the most during times of famine and repression. Her efforts to pass on literacy, health practices, and a sense of unity are vital, nurturing hope amid the persistent shadows cast by the regime. In the cities, the industrialization continues at a breakneck pace. Factories punch into the sky, swallowing entire neighborhoods in their smokestacks and roaring machinery. The urban landscape is transforming before everyone's eyes, with new buildings, bridges, and infrastructure projects emblematic of the state's relentless push for progress. Workers pour into the factories, often working grueling 12-hour shifts under harsh conditions. Their resilience fuels the nation's growth, yet many face exhaustion, dangerous working environments, and the threat of layoffs or repression if they step out of line. In the midst of this industrial surge, cultural life also begins to shift. Artists and writers are encouraged and sometimes forced to produce works of socialist realism, designed to glorify the worker and the collective. To them, art becomes both a tool of propaganda and a personal expression of revolutionary ideals. Certain intellectuals and artists challenge these restrictions, but many find themselves silenced or persecuted. The entire cultural scene operates under the watchful eyes of the state, with a careful balance between creativity and ideological conformity. Meanwhile, in rural areas like where the Ivanovs reside, the force of collectivization and industrialization ripples outward, creating a deep rift between the city and the countryside. For many peasants, everyday life becomes a battle of survival, marred by shortages and forced requisitions of grain and livestock by state officials. Resistance is met with repression, farming equipment confiscated, arrests made, and families torn apart. The tragic famine of 1932 to 1933, known as the Holodomor in Ukraine, underscores the devastating human cost of these policies. Millions perish from hunger. Farmers who once dedicated their lives to cultivating the land now faced starvation, while the state exported grain to fund industrial projects elsewhere. In the Ivanovs' village, life becomes an even harsher test of endurance. Food supplies dwindle, and the community's unity is strained under the weight of deprivation. Nikolai and other farmers work tirelessly, trying to hide or preserve small stocks of grain, but the authorities' requisition squads come swiftly. Many families are starved or displaced, their stories whispered from neighbor to neighbor, each carrying grim memories of lost loved ones and broken traditions. Despite this, life persists. Children continue attending the village school, albeit with fewer resources. Maria's efforts to teach literacy and health create ripples of resilience, helping the community to sustain what little hope remains. The older generations cling to cultural traditions, the songs, stories, and customs that have been passed down through centuries, claiming space even amid the relentless push toward modernity. Over in Moscow, Alexandra's education broadens her horizons. She spends her days in laboratories filled with microscopes and test tubes, her nights immersed in books and scientific journals. Her aspirations represent the ambitions of a youthful generation that believes in the promise of socialist progress. But even here, political scrutiny is ever present. Education is intertwined with ideological training, and dissent, even from the brightest minds, can lead to exile or imprisonment. Every so often, Alexandra receives letters from her father and mother, reports of how the village is coping, of small victories and big losses. These communications bolster her resolve, grounding her in her roots, even as she dreams of future breakthroughs that could help her homeland. Meanwhile, her youth fosters a belief that the hardships of their current struggles will someday give way to prosperity, a new society built on equality, science, and collective effort. Life in the USSR during this decade remains a tapestry woven with contradictions. The government's relentless drive for industrialization and societal transformation produces astonishing achievements, vast factories, new towns, and scientific breakthroughs, yet at a significant human cost. The terror of the purges, the famine's devastation, and the suppression of dissent cast long shadows over ordinary citizens. People like Nikolai and Maria must navigate a landscape fraught with danger and hardship, holding on to their dignity and hope as best they can. Springing from these hardships are moments of tenderness and resilience. Villagers share stories around fires at night, recalling old traditions and rituals, even as the authorities seek to erase them. Women in the collective continue to support each other, sharing skills, nurturing children, and keeping alive the cultural spirit amid repression. The children, the future of the Soviet project, show remarkable resilience, dreaming of better days, learning, and hope even on the bleakest of days. In the urban centers across the burgeoning cities, a new cultural scene slowly emerges: art, literature, and music that reflect the revolutionary ideals. Though controlled and often censored, these creative expressions serve as subtle acts of defiance. Writers pen stories of the workers' struggle, artists depict the strength of the collective, and musicians compose songs celebrating